If you think this is just an ordinary old Canadian penny, wait until you hear what collectors look for on the 1977 1-cent coin. Welcome back to Old Coins Explorer, the channel where we explore old coins, unusual varieties, mint errors, history, and real collector values. Today we are looking closely at a 1977 Canadian 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Canadian penny. This particular coin has a strong copper appearance, the classic maple leaf design, and the famous portrait of Queen Elizabeth II. But the big question is whether a 1977 penny can actually become valuable because of an unusual variety or mint error. There are documented 1977 Canadian cent varieties involving the date, leaves, dyed damage, clashes, and other striking abnormalities. Some certified examples of special 1977 varieties have sold for dramatically more than an ordinary circulated penny. However, not every unusual-looking mark is automatically a rare error, and this is one of the most important lessons for coin collectors. So in this video, we will examine the coin in the photographs, explain its history and specifications, discuss the famous 1977 varieties, and give a realistic value range. And most importantly, we will answer the question everyone wants to know. Is this particular 1977 Canadian penny a rare treasure, or simply a common but interesting vintage coin? The coin shown here is a genuine-looking 1977 Canadian 1-cent circulation coin, and its basic design matches the standard Canadian cent of that period. The obverse carries the portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, while the surrounding inscription reads Elizabeth II DG Regina. The letters DG are an abbreviation of the Latin phrase meaning by the grace of God, while Regina means queen. The portrait used on Canadian coins from this period was designed by Arnold Machin, and it is the second major Elizabeth II effigy used on Canadian circulation coins. The Royal Canadian Mint confirms that the Arnold Machin effigy was used on Canadian coins from 1965 through 1989. On the reverse, we see the denomination 1 cent, the date 1977, and the word Canada. The reverse also carries the famous 2 maple leaves attached to a single twig, a design created by G. E. Kruger Gray. That maple leaf twig design was introduced on the Canadian 1-cent coin in 1937 and remained the standard reverse design for most Canadian cents for decades. The initials of Kruger Gray can be seen on the reverse near the lower right area of the design, and the photographs show that area of the coin. So from a design history perspective, this is a classic Canadian bronze cent from the Elizabeth II era, rather than a commemorative coin or a special anniversary issue. Now let us look at the specifications, because these details are extremely important when identifying a Canadian 1977 penny. The standard 1977 1-cent coin has a diameter of approximately 19.05 millimeters. Its official weight is approximately 3.24 grams, and the edge is plain or smooth rather than reeded. The composition is approximately 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. That composition is important because the 1977 cent belongs to the older Canadian bronze copper era, long before later cents were produced with zinc or steel-based compositions. The Royal Canadian Mint lists the 1942 to 1977 Canadian 1-cent specification as 98% copper, 0.5% tin, and 1.5% zinc. The coin is also normally non-magnetic, so a strong attraction to a magnet would be a reason to investigate the coin further. Its diameter, weight, metal composition, and edge are useful tests because counterfeit or altered coins can sometimes look convincing in photographs. For a serious examination, collectors should weigh the coin on a precise digital scale and measure its diameter with accurate calipers. If your 1977 cent is close to the standard specifications, that supports its identification, although weight alone can never prove authenticity or a rare variety. The next major question is rarity, and this is where many online videos can become misleading. The 1977 Canadian cent was not produced in a tiny quantity. Approximately 453,050,666 circulation pieces were struck for that year. That means the normal 1977 penny is not considered a rare date simply because it says 1977. In fact, ordinary circulated examples are generally inexpensive, especially when they show the normal were expected from decades of circulation. The important point is that varieties and errors can change the story. Collectors have documented 1977 examples with clip planchets, die clashes, die cracks, die damage, rotated dies, fillings, brockage, broad strikes, and unusual doubling. There are also cataloged examples described as double 7, double 77, double 977, double 19, and double 9. These names refer to specific abnormalities involving the date and should not be confused with ordinary wear or lighting effects. A true doubled variety normally requires a specific and repeatable feature on the design, not simply a blurry edge or a second-looking line caused by circulation damage. This is why the 1977 penny is interesting. The date itself is common, but certain varieties can be much more desirable to collectors. Now let us discuss the viral part of this coin, because the word hook can easily create unrealistic expectations among new collectors. If you see a video claiming that every 1977 Canadian penny with a hook-like shape is automatically worth hundreds or thousands of dollars, you should be very careful. A hook-shaped appearance can come from normal lettering design, where die deterioration, surface damage, photography, shadows, or an actual mid-variety. The photographs provided for this video do show a heavily circulated coin with significant surface wear and discoloration. I can see the date 1977 clearly enough to identify the year, but the photographs alone are not sufficient to certify a particular rare doubled variety. In particular, I would not label this exact coin as a confirmed double 7 or double 77 merely from these photographs. The date should be examined under magnification from different lighting angles to determine whether there is genuine separation or doubling in the digits. Collectors should also compare the suspected feature with documented examples rather than relying on a viral social media photograph. This distinction is extremely important because a real double die can carry a premium, while a normal worn digit with a strange-looking edge usually does not. So the strongest and most honest hook for your video is not, "This penny is definitely worth a fortune," but rather, "This ordinary-looking 1977 penny has documented varieties that can be valuable, so check your date before spending or selling it." There is another fascinating reason collectors pay attention to the 1977 date. Documented auction results show that certain high-grade varieties can be worth dramatically more than the normal coin. For example, auction data for the 1977 Canadian cent list certified double 7 examples selling for much higher prices than ordinary circulated cents. One recorded double 7 example in MS64 brought about 220 Canadian dollars, while another reported MS65 example was around $40. The same auction data lists double 77 examples, including an MS66 example around 93 Canadian dollars. There are also recorded sales for other 1977 varieties, including double 977 and double 19 examples. But these figures must be understood correctly because they apply to specific attributed varieties and specific grades. They do not mean that every 1977 penny is worth $40, $90, or $220. A normal circulated coin without a confirmed variety remains a very inexpensive collectible. The dramatic prices belong to coins where the variety is genuine, identifiable, and often professionally graded or otherwise strongly documented. Therefore, if someone finds a 1977 penny, the correct approach is to inspect it first and only then investigate whether it matches one of the recognized varieties. Now, let us examine the condition of the specific coin shown in our photographs. The coin has obvious circulation wear, and many of the finer details of Queen Elizabeth II portrait are no longer sharp. The reverse also shows considerable surface wear across the maple leaves and surrounding fields. There are visible marks, discoloration, and areas that appear to contain surface residue or environmental staining. Because of this, I would not describe this example as an uncirculated or mint state coin based on photographs alone. The standard circulated 1977 cent is listed around 5 Canadian cents in the circulated grades shown by the catalog source, while high-grade mint state pieces can bring considerably more. For example, the catalog lists ordinary 1977 cents around 15 cents in MS60, 80 cents in MS63, about $8.80 in MS64, and substantially higher levels for exceptional MS65 through MS67 examples. Those higher values are for coins with exceptional preservation, not for a heavily circulated example like the one shown here. Therefore, my conservative assessment from these photographs is that this particular coin should be treated as an ordinary circulated 1977 Canadian cent unless a specific error or variety can be confirmed. In other words, the photographs do not provide enough evidence to honestly claim a high dollar value for this exact specimen. There's also an interesting historical story behind the Canadian penny itself, because Canada eventually stopped producing the 1-cent circulation coin. The Royal Canadian Mint says the penny was produced for more than a century, beginning with Canadian circulation history in 1908. The 1-cent coin remained part of everyday Canadian commerce for generations and became one of the most recognizable pieces of Canadian pocket change. However, the Canadian government decided to phase out the penny because its production and handling costs had become too high compared with its purchasing power. The Royal Canadian Mint produced the final circulation penny in 2012, and distribution of pennies officially ended in 2013. Even after the phase-out, the government stated that existing pennies retained their value and could continue to be used in transactions by businesses that chose to accept them. That makes a 1977 penny historically interesting because it represents a period when 1-cent coins were still an ordinary part of daily Canadian life. The coin in your photograph was therefore made roughly 35 years before Canada stopped producing circulation pennies. Today, collectors preserve these coins not only because of possible errors and varieties, but also because they represent an important chapter in Canadian monetary history. A small bronze-colored coin can therefore tell a surprisingly large story about Canada, its monarchy, its national symbols, and its changing currency system. Before we finish, let's talk about exactly how viewers should check their own 1977 Canadian pennies for possible varieties. First, clean the area around the date only by using good lighting and magnification, and avoid harsh cleaning or polishing because cleaning can damage collector value. Second, look carefully at each digit in 1977, especially the 2 sevens, and compare the shape with a normal example. Third, look for genuine separation, doubling, unusual extra metal, die cracks, die clashes, clipped edges, or other features that appear to be part of the original strike. Fourth, check the reverse maple leaves for unusual doubling or extra design features, because documented 1,977 examples include varieties involving the leaves. Fifth, weigh the coin and check its diameter if you have appropriate equipment, remembering that small differences can occur from wear and manufacturing tolerances. Sixth, photograph the suspected feature from several angles and with strong side lighting so that raised details are easier to see. Seventh, compare the coin with trusted coin references or obtain an opinion from a reputable Canadian coin dealer or grading service before assuming that a viral variety is present. And finally, never pay a huge amount simply because an online video says that a particular date is valuable, because authentication and attribution are what separate a normal coin from a genuinely collectible error. So, what is the final verdict on this 1977 Canadian 1-cent penny shown in our photographs? It is definitely an interesting vintage Canadian bronze cent with a classic Elizabeth II obverse and Kruger gray maple leaf reverse. Its standard specifications are approximately 3.24 grams, 19.05 millimeters in diameter, and a 98% copper alloy with small amounts of tin and zinc. The date itself is common because more than 453 million circulation pieces were produced in 1977. However, The year is worth checking because genuine 1,977 varieties such as double 7, double 77, double 977, double 19, and other errors are documented. The specific coin shown here has substantial circulation wear, and I cannot honestly certify a rare variety from these photographs alone. Its ordinary circulated value is therefore much closer to the common catalog level of around 5 Canadian cents than to the spectacular prices sometimes shown for certified high-grade varieties. At the same time, if a close-up examination proves a genuine recognized doubled variety, the value could change significantly depending on the exact variety, condition, and authentication. That is the real lesson of this coin. Do not ignore an old penny, but do not believe every viral claim either. If you enjoyed this investigation, subscribe to Old Coins Explorer, share this video with another coin hunter, and keep checking those old Canadian pennies because the next interesting variety might already be sitting in someone's collection.